Let's get more insight on the economic ties between China and Australia with Sung Won Sohn, economics professor at California State University. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
Professor Sohn, Australia has sent its largest ever trade delegation to China, over 1,000 business people led by the Prime Minister himself. What has been the highlight of the trip so far?
I think the Prime Minister indicated that the trade relationship between China and Australia will continue and strengthen based on the free trade agreement that they signed in 2015. So the prospect for future progress looks really good.
Well, let's talk about that free trade agreement. China and Australia signing it in December of last year. How is it progressing? What have been some of the tangible results from it?
In the past, China primarily imported mining products from Australia. Now it is going beyond that. For example, agriculture, such as dairy products, beef, wool, and the wine. And then so these are some of the items which are benefiting. But further on, we are talking about services, education, healthcare, tourism, and the legal architecture. Many of these are going to expand. So again, in the past, the relationship was primarily based on tourism and mining, but we are now going into more services. And also in the future, I would expect that based on Prime Minister's visit now, we will see more service and then investments from China into Australia, such as on infrastructure.
Right, you're absolutely right. There was the big mining demand, and now it's being dubbed the mining to dining boom. So how is Australia transitioning to China's new economic reality, which is that of being driven by the consumer?
Well, I think this is an opportunity for Australia. As we all know, China is emphasizing consumption. And the Chinese consumers have more money, they are more middle-class people, and they are spending more money. As a result, Australia is in a position to sell more products to the middle-income Chinese, and they are buying, again, such things as the dairy products, beef, wheat, and wine, and etc. So I think Australia needs to really do not look back on mining and then look toward the future. And the future is on selling agricultural products, investments, and then services.
Well, it is a quid pro quo because Australia is also going to smooth the way for its firms to enter the Chinese market with the establishment of a so-called landing pad in Shanghai. What are the details there? How will that work?
Shanghai, of course, is the business center of China. So if you are going to do anything, you have to go to Shanghai. And so one of the reasons why I'm sure the Prime Minister will be visiting Shanghai is because this is really the business center, and that's where you are going to make a lot of deals.
And on the other side of it, the free trade agreement, what does that mean for Chinese businesses? Which Chinese businesses are now likely to get more access to Australia?
China wants to invest more in Australia. As a matter of fact, we are talking about tens of billions of dollars, and this could really benefit Australia. But the Chinese investments in Australia has not always been welcome. And so there are some reservations on the part of Chinese in investing in Australia. As a result, I'm sure Australian government will do what it can to make sure that Chinese investments into Australia that is welcome. Again, as I mentioned, infrastructure such as highways and bridges and then ports. And these are some of the things that China is interested in investing in.
You mentioned that Chinese investments not always welcome in Australia, particularly in the housing market. This is a very feel-good trade delegation, but have any other areas of friction between Australia and China come up?
There's always some minor frictions here and there, and then as a matter of fact, some of the Australians feel that the Chinese influence in Australia that is too big. But also they have to realize that Australia has been able to grow and enjoy the prosperity they have to a significant extent because of China. For example, in 2015, Australian economic growth, GDP in real terms, was 2.5%. about half of it, 1.3%, was based on resources or mining. And again, much of that came from China. So without China, Australia would not be enjoying the kind of economic boom, well, not a boom, but in the past had a boom, but right now it's slowing, cooling. But so I think it's important that Australia, they recognize the importance of China and then treat them as such when they try to invest in Australia.
Right, a lot at stake for both parties, lots of benefits as well. Thank you so much. Sung Won Sohn, economics professor at California State University.